So, Stavros, Circe, good morning, and thank you for being a part of our Meet the Main Street Managers series, where Main Street Australia is reaching out to centre managers, centre coordinators throughout our network to understand more about you and how you operate, and to identify, I suppose, challenges within the industry, opportunities within the industry, and most importantly, commonalities, because as I'm sure you're aware, you've been in the industry for quite a while. Whilst at a fundamental level, we achieve or work to achieve similar goals based on where we're located throughout the area and based on our local councils and how we're governed from our committee of management perspective as well. We operate in very different ways. So this series is a great way to shed a light on that, understand that a little bit further, and just create a greater understanding about what it takes to be a centre manager, how you fell into being a centre manager, and just, I suppose, identifying and showcasing the enormously wonderful community that it is to be part of a centre manager network as well. So, yes, yeah, you're welcome. Why don't we kick off? Because I suppose you're unique in some ways, in that you're a husband and wife duo, and you've got your own marketing company that you operate to look after a couple of different centres. Do you want to first dive into what that looks like for you two?
Yeah, definitely. So again, thank you for having us and inviting us. So yeah, we've been in industry. This is our 20th year, Troy, that we've been doing this line of work.
Yeah.
So two decades. And on one hand, it's gone very, very quickly. On the other hand, it feels like an eternity since we sort of came on board. Yeah, we've obviously we're a husband and wife team, as you mentioned. We've both got marketing degrees. Yep. And we both majored in marketing and HR. And I think that's important because a lot of the role, as much as it is marketing, a lot of it is human resource involved as well in dealing with shopkeepers, council, and so forth. So there's a lot of people management in the role, and the way we sort of feel about it, I had my own business beforehand in a totally different industry in food manufacturing through my family, and one of my very, very close friends was the president of an association in McLeod in Ivanhoe, a very, very small shopping centre with only 44 traders back then in the day, and they just established their association, and he goes, I remember the day, he gave me a call, and he goes, Stav, he goes, we're looking for a marketing coordinator for our shopping centre, and truth be told, I had no idea what that meant. I'm thinking, what type of shopping centre is it? I mean, I knew his business, I knew where it was, but I thought, gee, they're pretty small. How what type of marketing can you do for that type of shopping centre? So I thought, I'm just painting that picture. I had no idea what I was walking into, and so he invited me down on behalf of the committee for a meeting, and we went down at the time. We met the committee, and we loved it. And I suppose what we loved most was the challenge. We thought, yeah, it's a small shopping centre. They've got a tiny budget, yeah, and we love the model. And look, the Banyule model is very, very unique in a sense where traders raise their money for their special rate, like most other shopping centres. But Banyule back then used to match $1 for $1. Yeah, so it gave the ability for those smaller shopping centres, even with 44 traders, it gave them enough funds to be able to do something.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, in a sense, it's almost like a bit of it's a partnership. It's a partnership between the trade association and traders and council. So we thought, yeah, that's fantastic, and we liked the model. We, obviously that properties were, were rated through their rates. That it was, everyone was on, you needed most people to be on board, and most people were. So it was really a coming together of saying, okay, well, all these different parties and traders coming together, for a collective, big benefit.
I think the other thing too, the softer side of us was that we've both come from small business backgrounds. So our parents owned businesses on shopping strips.
Yep.
And so we understood the struggles that go on at home. After you close your business at night and you say goodbye to your last customer, you actually really understand, you go home and that business person doesn't ever shut off. They're always thinking about it. So I think we came to it from a place of empathy as well, and we felt like we could really make a difference here because we understood what they were going through.
Yeah, and also knowing that most businesses and most small business or shopping strips are typically 5.5-day businesses. Yeah. So, you know, like my dad had a mobile phone shop. Circe's dad had a
video
video
library.
library, but so many, you know, managed so many of them, you know, and video libraries were 7 days, you know, and never closed, not even Christmas, New Year's or whatever, 365 days a year. And my father's shop on High Street in Northcote, you know, was again 5.5 days. You know, that he traded, you know, till 3 o'clock on a Saturday. You know, and it's you know, there's no, you know, annual leave. There's none of that kind of stuff. You know, there's staffing, there's shop front issues, there's council issues, there's, you know, so many challenges. You know, and, you know, there's no working from home, or, you know, and, you know, and whatever else. So, you know, we got that, and Circe is right. So when you understand that, and when you walk into a trader's shop, even introducing yourself, which I'll never forget, that first day in McLeod, when we walked around and said, "Hi, we're the new marketing coordinators," you know, we knew what that feeling was like. You know, many of us looked at us like, "Okay, yeah, who are you guys, and how can you help?"
You look after 3 shopping centres.
At the moment, we look after 6.
Okay, you look after 6. My apologies, 6.
We'll name them. So yeah, we've been doing this role for 20 years, and currently we've got the Ivanhoe Shopping Centre, which is one of our largest, up at Heidelberg Road, Ivanhoe, and we've been looking after that one for over 15 years. We've got the Bell Street Mall, which is also very close to Ivanhoe, and it is all in Banyule, and we've been looking after that one again for close to 15 years. And again, that's a very, very unique. That was Melbourne's first drive-in shopping centre. So all the shops sort of face in. It's like the Burke Street Mall with parking all the way around it.
Yeah.
And that was built on the back of the Melbourne Olympics in 1956.
Yeah, wow.
So it's got a lot of history there.
Yeah.
And Heidelberg West is probably one of the lowest, if not the lowest, socioeconomic area in Australia. Yeah. So a lot of migrants, a lot of office of housing properties in Heidelberg West. So a lot of migrants as well. So right now, nearly 50% of the businesses there are from operators from a Somali background, from Africa. And they came over during the migration in the 90s and so forth. And again, a very sort of rich cultural flavour over there. And it was considered by the Victorian State Government as a cultural precinct about 10 years ago, which we sort of fought for and said, "Hey, look at us." And I said, yep, you guys are definitely fit that mold. So, you know, the Bell Street Mall is more than just a shopping centre. It's a cultural precinct. And in Darebin, we look after Preston, High Street Preston, which also includes the market and much of High Street. And again, I would say that Preston is probably the most multicultural suburb in Melbourne. You know, again, it's a hot pot mixture of so many different cultures, and very similar to Sydney Road. And the market's had its own challenges over the last few years in terms of staying or going, but good news is that that's now staying for at least another 5 years. So that's given some certainty to the tendencies there, which is great. And then in Boroondara, we look after Mailing Road in Canterbury. Again, a very famous shopping centre for its rich history. And again, one of the highest socio-economic demographics of Melbourne. I think in Canterbury at the moment, it's $1,000 per square metre to rent a shop. So even if you've got a 50 square metre shop, which is tiny, you know, the going rate at the moment is $50,000. So it's a very, very high barrier to entry to getting to that in terms of cost. But it's got, again, it's a very unique shopping centre in terms of it's small, it's very, very well known, and it's got a really strong daytime trade. So it operates pretty much from 10 a.m., not even 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. Yeah, 7 days a week. Yeah, it's a 7-day-a-week shopping centre, but 10 till 4. So not much evening trade at all. And then the other two we're sort of helping a little bit on a short-time basis are also in Boroondara, and they are Union Road in Surrey Hills, which again is very bit similar to Mailing Road. And then the other one is Hartwell in Camberwell, yeah, which is again the heart of Melbourne. That's why it's called Hartwell, like geographically speaking. But again, that's had its challenges over the years too, and it's very, very fragmented. So you've got a group of shops, retail shops, and you've got 50 metres of office frontage space, and another group of shops, and 50 metres office. So it's very fragmented in that regard. So yes, at the moment we're very busy looking after all those shopping centres, but it's good for us too, because each shopping centre has different challenges, so we don't get bored on the job.
And I want to touch on, so one thing you pointed out before, and it is very true and probably resonates for all centres, open air shopping trips like we are, is that for the most part, they are small to medium businesses and they're family businesses. So I think quite a strong difference between what people would know as a hardtop shopping centre versus an open air environment is that the open air environment, for the most part, would largely have a lot more family operated business that have been around for 20, 30, 40 years. And business that doesn't operate, they operate as a business, obviously, but there's a few more quirks behind how they operate compared to what, say, a chain store might operate or something of those kind of respects within a hardtop environment. Like I know for us on Sydney Road, we've got businesses that one specific one next year will tick over 50 years of being open on Sydney Road. And it's been a family run business from day dot. And the way they operate and the way they communicate and the way we get to them is probably a very different to way how you would communicate with much more, I suppose, corporatized business models. And that really just speaks to the unique character of open air shopping strips, because they are largely those unique small to medium sized businesses, and for the most part, family operated or sole trader operated. And whilst they might be 5 or so days a week, in the reality, it's actually because they're the marketer, they're the finance person, they're the shopkeeper. It's much more than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, I think there are some shopping strips where all the stores are family-owned businesses, just like exactly how you described. Then you'll have shopping strips that have got a bit of a mixture of chains and family-owned.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to communicate to both of them. Like
Exactly.
with the corporate ones, the chains, you have to be able to communicate with their marketing manager in the background or their social manager or whatever it is, their area managers. Whereas some of the other ones you can walk in and speak to the owner straight away, and you can have that face-to-face interaction, and obviously that makes it much easier. But I think as centre coordinators, you have to be able to adapt to those situations and be able to speak to everyone and communicate with them how they need to be communicated with. Otherwise, then you don't get the buy-in for everything else that you want to do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think the other big difference too is that comparing your hardtops, your Doncasters and Chadstones to your strip shopping centres, is that number one thing is they've got, besides the massive resource difference that they've got, they also curate and control pretty much which businesses go into those shopping centres. Unfortunately, strip shopping centres do not have that luxury. Which, look, I say unfortunately, but it's also fortunate because at the end of the day, it's supply and demand. And sometimes you will get a gem coming in. Into, and we've seen that trend as well since the pandemic, where a few big chain businesses have gone, okay, well, maybe when we can get more benefit coming out onto the strip shopping centre. So we're seeing a bit of that reverse a little bit as well. But again, I think the key point here is there's a very, very low barrier to entry too in opening up a shopping centre in a strip. So you've got a lot of people experimenting, going, okay, well, we'll give it a go. We're sick of working with someone else, or circumstances go, well, they see a good opportunity, and they go, well, let's open something up. And they're coming from a very, very low base in terms of their knowledge of what it takes to run a business. So, and that's another way an association can help play a role as well to support them. And our councils can do that as well, and they've got business concierges and whatever else. But I think as well that you're dealing with a mixture of experienced, non-experienced people. Language is a barrier as well. Obviously, you get a lot of a lot of migrants like opening up businesses. Because they don't have certain qualifications, or again, they see opportunities from back home and they thought they can try them here. So again, there are definitely big differences from a hardtop to an open air or street type shopping centre. But Melbourne is also renowned for having shopping strips. I think what makes us unique. And we're renowned for our multiculturalism. I believe Melbourne is the most multicultural city on the planet, and I think that the fabric of shopping centres plays a big role in that.
With you looking after so many, do you divide and conquer, or are you a duo for all of them?
No, we're pretty much a duo for all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, we do focus on more on the ground. Yeah. I mean, Circe is more sort of in the background, and probably a good example of that is we delivered a great event yesterday in Mailing Road. We had a Mailing Road Expo, and with Mailing Road, we departed there about a couple of years ago. And we handballed that one over to someone else, and it only lasted a few months, handballed over to someone else. And then late last year, we got the call saying, listen, it's not working out, we need you guys back. So I said, okay, we'll come. So it sort of came back, and we stepped into this role, and the previous coordinator and it was a new committee too. Yep. So previous committee and previous coordinator had applied to the council for grant funding for an event, which was yesterday, March 17. And we looked at that event and said, there's no way we can deliver that in a couple of months, so we need to change the event. Yep. So we changed the event and said, right, we're going to do a Mailing Road Expo and we're going to focus on traders. So Mailing Road does other events like a classic car show, which is a very, very popular event. And that's obviously got the focus on cars, or they do a big Christmas event with a focus on kids' activities and Santa and so forth. We thought, why don't we just go back to basics and focus on businesses, on you guys. So we're not going to block off the street, because then all of a sudden the focus becomes on the street and what you're doing in the street. We're going to focus on the footpaths. So we're going to encourage traders to come out onto the footpaths. We're going to give them incentives by giving them a trestle table and a nice tablecloth and an umbrella and picket fencing, so it all looks nice and snazzy. And then they can put their goods on there and almost create like two barriers. So you've got a barrier there with goods, and then you've got your shop. So people are really focused on the business, on the businesses. And we did that yesterday, and it was an outstanding success. Traders are going, oh, so good, because again, people walking past going, I didn't know you were here. I've lived in the area for 30 years. I didn't know you were here. We hear that all the time. And yes, we had some other entertainment, like we had a kids disco, and we had some bands, a bit of music playing, and a bit of a beer garden and so forth. But again, the focus was on the traders. And I suppose that's the part that gets you can get a little bit lost along the way. That you can, along the way you can think, okay, let's do this event or let's do this promotion. But really coming back to it, that $1 a day for the coffee, or now $3 a day for your coffee that you're paying. These traders are investing money. So as coordinators and as a committee and as an association, we have to be seen to be giving that. What are we doing for that return on investment for that $3 a day, for that $700 or $1,000?
He doesn't drink coffee. It's now like $6 a day, but anyway.
$6 a day, right? But I think we can all say that each trader typically invest $1,000 a year towards a special rate. So what are they getting for that $1,000? The argument always is, what else can you do for $1,000? And really, you can't do that much for $1,000. So again, it's about pulling that $1,000 with all the other traders. You've got a collective fund, and then you can do stuff. But again, even when you're doing an event or a promotion, you've always got to look like you're tying it back to that investment that they're putting in.
Where we've both got very different strengths.
Yes.
And even with this Mailing Road event,
that's
where he was getting to, he was dealing with all the traders and trying to get them to come out onto the street and all of that. I was in the background taking care of the permits and liquor licenses and, that sort of stuff. That's where we are lucky that we've got each other. We're lucky because we can bounce ideas off one another and talk through ideas and make sure that something is actually going to be successful, as opposed to just, there's an idea. So before we present anything to our committees, we're pretty firmed up. We're pretty sure that we've got a winning formula there. So we're really lucky. We know that being a centre coordinator, centre manager is a very lonely job. And it's a really hard job, especially when you have a hard day with a particular trader or something like that. Not everyone is as appreciative of you as everyone else. And it can be really, really hard. So I think that's why we've probably stayed in it for so long, because we do have each other. And, and it gives us a good lifestyle. Like in terms of, we take our kids to school, we've got a lot of flexibility. We pick them up from school. There's a lot of benefits to this role.
And I suppose a question for you, because obviously managing 6 different centres and very different backgrounds in terms of how they're built and how they operate. For you, are there universal challenges that they've all faced despite the economic, also socioeconomic background differences?
Yeah, there are. Look, I think the universal challenges of our role is that, as centre managers, we're ultimately, governed and responsible to our committees. So the committees are all completely different across all those shopping centres. So again, I think that's where the HR part comes in. So we always say that committees need strong presidents. And we're very lucky. We've got strong presidents across all our 6 associations, and they usually help guide the ship in that regard. And obviously, then you need good committee members too. And we're very lucky that we've got some great committee members, and a lot of them have been in those roles for quite a while, so familiar with that role. And we do have AGMs every year, and people come on and go off and so forth. But I think the committees is imperative to our role, because if we don't have a strong committee or a destabilised committee, they're not all on the same page, then the centre manager's role and even the association's role becomes completely it's a totally different ballgame. Yeah. So all of a sudden, sort of you're trying to manage all the politics and, all the going of that end, rather than focusing on really what's happening in marketing. So, but then again, that's where good coordinators can play a role in terms of making sure that everyone's on the same page, getting people management, and also good councils, specifically economic development teams. Yeah, they can be supportive as partners, and help train, even communicate with or relate to, with committees, in terms of getting that structure and that balance right.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, obviously, I've only got one committee, so look after one centre. So can't completely relate, but definitely completely relate and understand the fact that having a strong committee and a strong president is really foremost to being able to have a successful business association. When everyone's all on the same page, we're all bought into the same vision and agree with the same guidelines and what we're trying to achieve. It makes decision making, and it makes the association operate so much more better and much more efficient.
We're seeing a bit of a trend in the last 6 months to a year, where we're seeing so it's probably the best way to describe it. Are we centre managers? Are we centre coordinators? Are we marketing managers? Yeah. So they're 3 different titles, which in a way they all overlap. But they can also be completely different things.
Yes.
And again, I think it depends a little bit on the shopping centre, but I think overall, I think these schemes were designed and set up to be marketing funds. So marketing rates. So, and again, it comes back to that return on investment. So traders expect that you're going to be marketing the street to try to attract more business into the area, and as a result, some of that business goes in towards their shop. So the trend that we've seen is, and that's probably been the last few years, is less of a marketing role, and more of a centre manager role, and now even more of the latest trend we're seeing is a precinct manager role. So it's a bit of a new term, which we've never heard of before.
We have, but not in the Main Street capacity.
So and the association there is that there's a lot more admin. The role's moving away from marketing towards admin. And we understand and we know from our experience that, yes, there is certain admin that needs to be involved. Right. And at the end of the day, this is all governed under a certain act. That council's involved, and they're a level of government. And there's reporting needs to be done, and there's the consumer affairs stuff that needs to be done, and you've got a rules of association, and you have a funding agreement with the council as part of that partnership and whatever else. However, we feel like that focus has now gone too far towards the admin role, admin focus, as opposed to the marketing focus. And that's a challenge, because at the end of the day, the traders who are fundamentally driving this and paying the rates, they're not paying it for admin. Right? They're paying it for marketing.
What's the single most best thing about what you do?
Single most best thing about what we do?
One thing, if you could take one thing as the best thing about what you do.
I think, look, personally speaking, the fact that working together, I think
he loves it.
I love it. I love working with all family, right? So that's big for me. But I think professionally, again, it's just, I think it's, as corny as it sounds, it is making traders smile. And giving that that hope and optimism, and just changing their mindset. Because it's very easy to get down on yourself. And again, having parents who have had businesses, it's a roller coaster ride. You're going to have good days and bad days. You're going to have good weeks and bad weeks. And that's you're never going to have good weeks. It's very, very, very rare. In small business, to constantly be hitting highs. We know that. So again, and I know it's fresh because we just had an event yesterday, and we actually had another one on Friday at the Bell Street Mall, a big Ramadan iftar dinner for 500 people. But again, it's about going, okay, these people have come together on a day and having a positive, high energy experience. Right? And they remember that. People remember positive home just like they remember the opposite. You know, if they have a low energy, negative experience, you remember that. It gets anchored into your brain. So for us, about overcoming negativity, focusing on the positives, working off that momentum, going, okay, well, what's next? What's next?
I just like to add to that. I think there's two things for me. I love seeing our ideas come to fruition, especially when we've had a great idea and then we see it executed. We execute it and it works how we thought it was going to work. I think professionally makes me feel really good. But also, speaking about like the Bell Street Mall, we've done Christmas events there where we do free Santa photos. And some people have never had a Santa photo before in their life. And that is their first time because we give it away for free. And it actually makes me feel warm and fuzzy, just doing something for the community and that's actually making such a difference to someone's life. And, they've got such a positive experience there. And it's something small, like it doesn't have to cost the earth and hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can actually affect that very, very simply if a little bit creative with what you deliver. So, it is nice to walk away and go, okay, we made a difference here today. And look, what we've done big things like Livia Newton-John. We got her down to Ivanhoe 3 times. Like, that was a big goal for us, and that happened. And our gift card program, which brings in hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to shopping, centres, that feels just as good as the Santa photo stuff. Like it's and if it didn't, I think there'd be an issue, to be perfectly honest. If you don't feel that, you're probably in the wrong line of business.
What do you do to unwind or to shut off from the day? Is there particular things or rituals that you do or favorite go-tos that you watch or something?
If you saw our kids' schedule, you'd know the answer.
We have three daughters, aged 14, 12, and 10. Okay. They all dance like 2 to 3 times a week. Plus their other, extracurricular activities. There's kids for us is number one, and that's why we love the role so much too, because we've got that flexibility, and our kids help with some events or whatever else we need to do. And obviously they come
data entry,
or whatever menu.
There's always a lot of data entry.
There is a lot of So, but it's also good, leaning on them too and saying, hey, what do you think of this idea? What do you think of this attraction? Do you think it's going to be good? Like yesterday, we had a Taylor Swift inspired disco for the kiddies. And it was fantastic. So hey, look, our kids occupy much as much as our business does, occupy much of our life. But yeah, look, I play a bit of sport outside as well. Circe's got her things that she does as well. So yeah, we're pretty good like that. Yeah, we've got a decent. There's no such thing as work-life balance. I think that's a myth, as a lot of people say. It's work-life integration. So our work's integrated into our social life, and our social life's integrated a little bit into our work life. And yesterday, I had my brother came down. I had 2 of my best friends come down to the event, and they brought their kids, and so forth. So we got to have some social time with them, but at the event, and a lot of them were like, wow, you did all this, and some of us have known us for years, and they still don't really understand it, what goes on behind it.
Yeah. No, I think you touched on a good thing there about work-life balance and maybe not necessarily being a thing, but not that that's a bad thing either. Because I know for me on the weekend, because Sydney Red Brunswick is also my local shopping strip. And so I'm always, whether I'm here in a work capacity or in a non-work capacity, I'm always in the area. And it becomes much more than a job. It becomes supporting a community.
100%.
And, I have very casual conversations with business owners and we talk about anything and everything. And they actually ask, do you feel like you're working? Like, no, this doesn't feel like work at all. I'm casual. I'm enjoying myself in the shopping strip. I'm talking with you as a person to person, not as a business owner to an association manager. We're having a casual conversation, but importantly, I'm remaining engaged with the community on levels that I'm totally okay with. I'm more than happy to be here every day and shop and support local and be able to have an understanding about where my dollar's going, where I'm spending it here locally, and who I'm supporting.
Also, it gives you an insight as to what it is to be a customer in the shopping center you're managing. And that's not a small amount of information that is useful. Like, I tend to, support our shopping strips where if I need certain shoes. I'll go to a shoe shop in our shopping strip with eyebrows done and like all of our allied health is in our shopping strips. You support where you can, because being a customer there, you do get a different insight into it.
I think also too, getting back to the original parties, starting 20 years ago, the internet was just not a big thing. There was definitely no social media. So we've seen the role and the marketing specifically part of it change, immensely. So now it's very hard to switch off too. I mean, we get messages, 9 p.m. From a Facebook customer saying, are you doing an Easter egg hunt next week? And you feel, you're compelled, you answer it. Emails come in all the time or whatever else. So
and to be honest, Troy, we've turned down jobs where they've asked us to work like 1 day a week. Like the hours are 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. on a Monday. Like, so what happens the rest of the time? You can't just manage an association just on 1 day a week. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
We work 7 days a week.
On set days or set times, So, it's a 7-day job to a certain degree as well. So we understand that. You're going to check your emails, you're going to check your socials. We get all that. So that's what I mean by that work. Like, sometimes it is hard a little bit to switch off. But you just got to prioritize and make time to do other things.
All right. Well, I think we might call the conversation to a close. So thank you, Circe and Stavros, for jumping on this conversation and being a part of our Meet the Main Street Manager / coordinator, centre manager, whatever you want to call yourselves, conversations to understand how everyone operates. Really insightful conversation, and so many things coming out of it, especially from the lens of you looking after so many areas, and having a much bigger picture than maybe someone like myself who looks after one, or and I'm 4 days a week, but other people might be 1 or 2 days a week, depending on the centre themselves. But no, really insightful conversation and really insightful takings that have come from this conversation. So thank you both for taking the time out of your no doubt busy mornings.
Thanks for having us, Troy, and thank you to yourself. And we appreciate that. You're on the Main Street Committee, and you're the centre coordinator and centre manager liaison, and whatever else. So thank you for that work. And Main Street's it's a great organisation. It's a great organisation, and like I mentioned earlier, centre coordinators don't have a lot of support, but at least that's one body where they can go to, and get some answers of support.